All right, here we are, everybody. What is going on today? A special edition of the Metal Voice, talking about. First of all, can everybody hear us properly? You want to do a mic check there, Perrin?
Testing 1 2 3. Testing one two
Testing
three.
1 2 3 1 2 3.
Can you hear us out in Metal Voice Land?
All right, everybody, tell
What
us
are they?
if the audio balances well. Sometimes I'm a little louder than Perrin. Perrin's a little louder than me. Sometimes it's a nice balance. Sometimes it's too low. Got to crank it up. On the Metal Voice today, a special. Oh, David says yes, very good. Thumbs up. Thank
Woo!
you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Special edition, like I said, Megadeth, the sick, the dying, and the dead. I have heard this. Parent has not heard this. Okay. This is a very special edition because Parent's going to be asking me questions, and everybody out there in YouTube world, you can ask questions too pertaining to this album. I've heard it all. I've tried to absorb as much as I could. It is a very there's a lot to absorb. Think of the Iron Maiden album, just a lot to absorb. So
Yeah.
there we go.
I've been nervous all day, Jimmy, because I've done a lot of celebrity interviews and a lot of rock star interviews,
Yes,
but this
yes.
might be
The
the
best.
biggest interview
The
I've
biggest
ever done
ever.
on the Metal Voice. So I've been kind of nervous all day, jotting down notes because I just want to make sure.
I don't want to I want to put you at ease.
Okay.
I want to put you at ease.
Get
All right.
all. Let me all
First
get
things
all tense.
first, as you've noticed, I've been wearing my Grim Reaper shirt, and you will see this Grim Reaper shirt on forthcoming shows and shows that we've done. It's just I'm not wearing it all day long. I'm just wearing it for the shows. It's my salute to Steve Grimmett, who just passed away. And in the link of this video, there is a link to Steve's send off for his funeral. They were not rich. They did not have a lot of money. Funerals cost a lot of money. So go to the video link, the description, if you want to give a few bucks and help out Millie and her family, and to send Steve off in a good way and a nice funeral. So a little bit of money goes a long way for to put someone who was so wonderful and gave us so much music over the years. Send him off in a great way. Perrin.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I'm on the show since the passing of Steve earlier this week. And, privately, when Jimmy told me the news that he thought it had happened, I was kind of floored. And then when it was confirmed that Steve had passed away, I was floored. And, we've lost a lot of our friends and heroes along the way since we've been doing the show together. But it hits a little closer to home when it's somebody you feel you know a bit better. And I know, Jimmy, you spent, quite a bit of time with Steve. And the last time Steve was in town, you, I, and he, and Ian and the guys in the band had dinner together. So I kind of feel like it was somebody that, even though it was just 3 years ago, time flies. But I kind of just feel like it was yesterday that I was in this room having dinner with him, and now he's not there anymore. And I just want everyone to know, like, I met Steve for the first time when I was 16 years old as a fan at an in-store.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those in-stores could be like signed next, sign next. And Steve was never like that. Steve, I remember back then, he stopped, he listened to stories, he laughed, and it was one of the most engaging in-stores I'd ever been to. And Steve was the coolest guy back when I was 16 years old. And then flash forward, like over 30 years later, you know, I get to meet him again with
Mm-hmm.
you, and just he invites us backstage, and we're having, dinner backstage before their show. And we're talking as if no time has passed, and it's just very friendly, cordial conversation. And that's the thing. Steve was just like a regular, down to earth guy that you can talk about music or life or anything. He was an open
Yeah.
book. And he's a regular guy like me and you. And like you said, you know, he wasn't a rich man. Grim Reaper gave us some great music, but like a lot of our heroes, he unfortunately didn't get the benefit from his music like he should have.
Yeah.
He lived a modest life. So if there's anything anybody can do, it could be $1, it could be $100. Everybody just do what you can do. But if we could give Steve the send off he deserves and help Millie and the family, and I just like to express my condolences to Millie and the family because they're great people. And if it's one thing we are here, it's a community, and we take care of our community. So anything we can do in this case, we'd love to be able to do, and that's why we will be mentioning it on our shows and on the site as much as we can the next little bit. And just do
And
what you
just
can
so you
do.
know, nobody, great stuff, Perrin, nobody send me money. Send it to the link that's in the description of the video. Because last time we were doing a charity for, I can't remember who, I think it was Razor. They're sending me the money, and I had to like send it to them, and just make it easy. Click on the link. There's a fundraiser link in the description, or you can Google, Steve Grimmett fundraiser for sending him off, and send the money there right to them, and that would be much appreciated. All right, let's switch gears from something a little sad to something a little new. The album's going to be released on September the 2nd. This is produced by Dave Mustaine and Chris Rackstraw. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. It'll be released on Universal and Tradecraft. There were 3 singles that were released from the album: We'll Be Back, Night Stalkers, and Soldier On. Well, today you're going to get to hear what the rest of the album is like. Well, I'll do my best to tell everybody what the rest of I've been hearing it. I've been trying to absorb it. And I'll give you the whole... How about this? We'll go through the songs. You could ask me questions, but I'll just start off with just thoughts, okay? Production. You've heard the production, everybody, on those first 3 songs. It's bright, it's clean, it's crisp, and to me, it sounds very well mixed with all the instruments. Do you agree, Baron?
I can only speak for the first 3 songs.
Well, I mean, that's the production on the rest of the album, right?
So if that's what the whole record, and my first question to you, Jimmy, was going to be, are those first 3 songs, whether it's production, whether it's lyrical content, whether it's pacing, are those 3 songs representative of the record? Like, if I like those 3 songs, will I love this record? If I'm kind of on the fence about those songs, will I be on the fence about the record? So,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that question in 1 minute.
All right.
The guitar work, as you heard in the first 3 songs, top notch. It's clear. It's clean. It's just 10 out of 10 for Kiko, right? There's time changes. There are key changes. There's tempo changes galore. I don't think there's any Megadeth album that had this many tempo changes. Lots of lead breaks. A lot of soloing. Solos are like hovering in the back at all times. It takes a long time to absorb this album. I'm going to tell all those fans out there. Very colorful and witty lyrics, something you haven't heard in a while from Mustaine, and lots of spoken word. Like you've heard Ice-T sort of, doing the spoken word on, which song was it? Was it on Soldier On or Night Stalkers? I think it was
Night Stalkers, the second single.
A lot of that. So
is it other guests doing that, or is it Dave Mustaine doing that?
It's Dave Mustaine, and at some points I think he's actually kind of trying to rap. I wouldn't call it a rap like traditional.
Okay, but Jimmy, you're scaring me. See, like if this is supposed to be selling the record to me, like you telling me that
no.
Now if you tell
I take
me
that
he does
back.
kind of a mean
phrasing it,
kind of spoken word,
yes,
I like that.
Phrasing. It's a phrasing that it's kind of like a talking phrasing where it rhymes. It could be considered a metal-ish rap,
be careful
but it's not a
because,
traditional.
If the sales of the record go down because of the show, then it's not a good thing.
No. So I would tell everybody who's a Megadeth fan, who has basically everything that they have, you're gonna love it. There's absolutely no way a Megadeth fan is not gonna love it. And the first question was that I saw in the chat today, and it was from Dade Lee Murphy. Here's a question. Do you think Megadeth, Dave Mustaine, needs to call it a day after this album, or do you think he has one more good album in it? I can tell you right now, he has not run out of gas. His tank is full, and he's firing off on all cylinders. I'm like completely blown away by this album. Dave Mustaine is brilliant. You know what? Sure, throughout the career, there's been a couple of slow points or low points. And then there's been those dynamics of, better albums. But let me tell you, this guy is firing off on all cylinders off this album.
So, Jimmy, let me ask you, do you think it's the fact that maybe Dave took a little bit more time to make this record? Because it felt like, I think most people liked The System Has Failed, and that got really positive reviews. And then it felt like the albums after that came fast and furious. United Abominations, 13... Endgame, Super Collider, Dystopia, like boom, 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 boom. And some were better than others, but they came at us pretty quickly, it felt like. And this one, due to COVID or whatever else, and band member changes, it seems like it took a bit longer to get there. So do you think for Dave to put out the best music possible, he needs to not rush things? And if he puts out an album next year, maybe it won't be so good. But if he tours this and doesn't release another album for 3 records and really lets whatever else is going on marinate inside of him, do you think we get a better record when Dave Mustaine takes a bit more time to do it?
Absolutely. So, I mean, think of it this way. You know, when a band first makes their first album, they have their whole sort of like, I wouldn't call their whole career.
You have your whole life to make your first record.
Your whole life, well, even though it's like 18 years maybe, but you have so much time to make that first album and to perfect those songs and to jam them out. I think this is what happened in this case, because this album was started before COVID, and then COVID, and now today. So all this time to sort of think, redo, you know, to really craft well-crafted songs. And this is not, I wouldn't consider this album sort of, you know, the P sells but who's buying the hit, you know, like that song, it's catchy, it's melodic. I would consider it, you know, a mesh of these guys right here, and I had them all out. So from Rust in Peace to you know, Dystopia to Endgame, and even the first album, Killing Is My Business, I would say it's less like this and less like this. So in other words, you're not looking at the 90s and you're not looking at the 2000s. You're looking more of the sort of dystopia and beyond. Like, it's not dystopia though. It's organically the next step away
Jimmy,
after.
So I've been reading a lot, and I have to say I agree. Based on the first 3 singles, I've seen a lot of people comparing the music to Rust in Peace era Megadeth. Now, in your mind, is that the comparable?
No.
It's Rust in Peace.
I would say, oops, I just dropped the CD. I would say it's sort of like Rust in Peace meets Endgame meets Dystopia.
Okay.
And on. You know, Perrin has heard all 3 singles and Jimmy got an advanced copy. Okay, so that's one. You know, Dave's have played songs. Okay.
Yeah, just so everyone knows the way this normally works. Sometimes the record companies will send us something early, and Jimmy gets to share it with 2 or 3 or 4 of us, because they can see everything. There's no more CDs. Everything's digital.
So in this case, I only had the advanced copy on this case. Okay, so I heard it, I absorbed as much as I could, and here we are. Bottom line is, this is not dystopia. This is organically the next step after dystopia. So we're going into new territory. We're still traditionally Megadeth, but we're also going into some new territory. And I think the big part of this album, of why it's so great, is because Kiko is now writing with Dave. He's more comfortable in the band, right? He's been with him for some time now. So now you're seeing the true essence of the songwriting team of Dave Mustaine and Kiko. And let me tell you, man, Dave is brilliant, Kiko is brilliant, and I guess there's some more contributors. I just got to see who actually wrote on this album. I think, let me just go here.
Dave was recently quoted in an interview where he was saying...
Dirk also did.
And Dave as well. Did an interview this week, or he made a statement where he kind of said that it was really refreshing to have Dirk and Kiko contribute to the record. Yeah,
so Kiko has contributed a lot to this record, and you could tell, and you know, it was that sort of like the breath of fresh air. So that, to the original question that I asked, have they run out of gas? Absolutely not. They are firing off on all cylinders. Okay, so we had Steve DiGiorgio of Testament, right? He came in to replace Dave Ellefson on the album. Yeah, but I don't think he played.
Steve is an incredible metal all-star bassist. I mean, he's known for Testament. He's done Sadus. I think he might have been in Iced Earth for a little bit as well.
He's been everywhere. He's a pro.
Steve is like a metal all-star bass player.
But from my understanding is, Kiko actually, there was some bass parts. Ellefson then did the bass. They removed the bass. And then Steve Giorgio, he added some bass. We don't know how much and what extent. But the point is, the bass is there and it's great. All right? You want to talk about the songs? I'm going to say, and I'll say this once again, this is the most tempo-changing album Megadeth has. I went through the whole discography. There are just so many different moods going on. There's so many tempo changes. It's ferocious. Is that the right word? Ferocious?
Ferocious. You can say it's ferocious.
It's ferocious. It's thrashing. There are a couple of quirky moments, I would say, more colorful lyrics than most albums. So, and Dave, you asked me about the singing, right?
But it doesn't get does it get monotonous? Because
No.
I loved the first two singles. I didn't
Yeah.
like the third one as much. And if the third one had been the first one and I hadn't heard anything else, I might have liked it. But by the time we got to the third single, I thought it was like, okay, is there an In My Darkest Hour? Is there a Tout Le Monde? Is there something different on this record, or is it just all going to be the like the really heavy fast stuff?
So I kind of divided this into like three types of songs that are on this album. There's the sort of out of the box quirky ones. There's the sort of machine gun thrashing, have you heard on the first three songs, right? The machine
Yep.
gun drumming and riffing, the chugging, and then you have sort of like the storytelling, Dave Mustaine, and that's kind of divided into those are more like the heavy metal storytelling of Dave.
Okay, so is it storytelling like Sweating Bullets that's kind of swing tempo? Or is it like In My Darkest Hour that's a bit slower tempo? Like, is there a slow tempo song on the record?
No, there's no ballad if that's what you're saying. There is
Okay,
a
so
slow,
no...
there's more of a slow groove, but there's no ballad, absolutely. There's no
Right.
Tout Le Monde.
And that'll probably make a lot of people happy. I mean, look, I don't mind one slower tempo song on the record. I love In My Darkest Hour.
Yeah.
If and obviously it speeds up at the end. I like a Tout Le Monde. I wouldn't
there
want
is.
a record full of it,
Yeah.
but I don't mind one song. But there isn't one of those. Gotcha.
All right, so The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead. That's the first track. We'll go through the tracks really quickly. I don't want to
Yeah.
bore
So
everybody.
so I have the track listing here. So okay. So The Sick, The Dying, and the Dead. First song.
This is the Black Plague, so everybody knows that's the story behind it. You hear little snippets of sound bites here and there, a little cool picking at the beginning, very slow, and then it gets into a really cool song. I would consider this more of a heavy metal song than a thrashing song. Of course, it's very technical. There's a lot of groove there. A lot of, like I told you about the lead, there's a lot of lead breaks, but hovering in the background of the verse and the chorus, Kiko, 10 out of 10 job on this, on the whole album. And then at one point, I don't want to tell everybody everything about these songs in the album, but at one point it just kind of stops. And it's like the Ring Around the Rosie. Dave is kind of singing the Ring Around the Rosie, Pocket Full of Posy. And you're kind of like taken back, what? But it has to do with the Black Plague, and it just has a monster ending after that. So, fabulous.
Are the songs long, by the way?
Dead.
Like, are these songs long
No.
songs? Because I
Between
noticed the record
4 to
is
6,
14
7, I would say.
Okay, yeah, 14 songs, an hour and 3 minutes. So nothing should be too long. Okay, so then we go into Life in Hell is the second song.
And just came out saying he loves those nursery rhyme stuff. He does. And that's what makes Dave Dave. And this album has so many colorful lyrics, like, a lot of different topics. It's not that machine gun. Let's get into, like, the first three singles were sort of the army, we'll call it war based.
Yeah. I think they were very deliberate with the first three singles because, the first single, We'll Be Back, I think they wanted to tell people, we're back and we're back to kick ass. And I feel like sometimes you could just tell kind of what the marketing message is. And I think they just wanted to grab people's attention with the first three songs and let people know that if you like hard driving Megadeth, it's back.
I'm really pleased he seems to have injected more enthusiasm on the album. Yes, you are correct. And I think the first three singles, they're connected in the sense that what you said, as well as the story of Vic Rattlesnake,
Vic
right?
Rattlehead.
That's
Vic Rattlehead.
Rattlehead. Sorry, Vic Rattlehead. Wrong Vic.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of the what do they call it? The how he became who he was, right? What do they call it?
His backstory?
His backstory, but there's a word for it. I just forgot it.
Yeah, backstory.
There's a better word for that.
All right. Well, if anybody has a synonym for backstory, let us know. So Life in Hell is the second track. So what's Life in Hell all about?
Another thrasher. So all the thrashing fans will be very happy. Again, there's the spoken word that I was speaking about. There's a lot of that there too. It's creepy, and there's a cool line, spy versus spy in the song. And if anybody knows what Spy versus Spy is, it's from Mad magazine.
Mad
Spy versus Spy.
Yeah,
He uses his
for
little,
our generation.
and another line in the story is busted, caught red-handed again, a couple of pills, a couple of drinks. Who doesn't care anymore? So I don't know if this is like a serial killer that's talking. I don't know if it's someone who's done something really bad who doesn't care about life anymore. So that's all I can get out of it. I
Yeah,
don't
look, you'll
have
probably get it
regret.
more after repeated listens too. I don't think you've listened to this 20 times either, so I mean, you're probably gonna have to read the lyrics a bit more.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
which is fine. The drumming is outstanding, by the way, on this song, and I would say it's the cousin of Night Stalker. Super technical speed and thrash. So for
All
your
right, and
thrashers,
then Night Stalker is next. So I don't know if you need to talk too much about that because I think we've heard it and we even reviewed it on one of our shows. We talked about that. We don't really know how much Ice-T really contributed to it because it was just one little part, but you know, it's always
look,
nice to have Ice-T involved.
Dave Mustaine was on Ice-T's album, and I guess he's sort of returning the favor. So everybody
Reciprocating.
else, you've heard Night Stalker. We don't need to talk about it, apparently, unless you want to
No,
say something.
because I'm curious. I love the next title. So the next title in itself has me curious. Dogs of Chernobyl. So
One of the so I and somebody asked what's the best tracks out of the album. I would say this is probably one of the best songs on the album. This is Story Time with Dave. So if everybody doesn't know what the Dogs of Chernobyl is, in the Ukraine in the 80s, when everybody evacuated when there was a meltdown of the nuclear reactor, right?
right.
All that was left were dogs, basically. A lot of the dogs were shot, but some of the dogs lived. And they say to this day, those dogs of the day back in the 80s, they don't live, of course, today, but they bred. So they're still dogs of Chernobyl. So it's a story of abandonment. It's a metaphor, basically. He's saying, you've left me like the dogs of Chernobyl. So it's an abandonment. It's a love song, but it's not a ballad. And, there's a little bit of a rap in the middle, but I don't want to call it a rap. We'll call it like a spoken word phrasing.
Yeah.
And,
See, I'm curious to hear this now because see, I like a well-placed spoken word piece. Now, I don't mind rap either. I love what Rush does during Roll the Bones, so it just kind of depends how far you go and how it fits the song. But, again, sometimes a very well-intended spoken word piece can really help deliver the message of a song.
some really cool riffs happening throughout that song, and then it speeds up, at the end. And it's just, to me, if I was to say one of my favorite songs, I have a few, I would say Dogs of Chernobyl is one of the greatest songs because, again, it's not talking about war. He's using metaphors to describe abandonment, and I think that's what makes it even more fun and cool.
Right. Then we get into more simple song titles. So the next one is Sacrifice.
All right, so on this one, Dave he's using a more of an Arabic vocal line. So you know how you hear Arabic scales?
So kind of a cadence, you mean? Like the cadence of the song?
Yeah, the phrasing, the vocal lines, that type of vocal line, and it's fabulous. And again, it's a very fast-paced song. Now, however, this is where the song is a little bit weird, more proggy in a sense, where because the verse is amazing, it kind of goes into this bizarre chorus. I think it's a key change, and it's probably not a great key change where the chorus is not as melodic as you'd want it to be. However, when you listen to it on the headphones, you're going, oh my God, there's so much going on here. The guitar work, the strumming. I think this is more of a musicians type of song. Not your typical Peace Sells, but who's buying, accessible commercial person looking for that song. This is more of a musicians guitar song. You put on headphones, you're saying, there's a lot going on here. It's very proggy, and there's a lot of changes and key changes and time changes and tempo changes, and you're going, wow, this is pretty cool. So I wouldn't say this is my favorite, but I could see a lot of guitarists loving this song. It's a grower.
It's cool. Yeah, there's always going to be, we guitar players, bass players, drummers, and when you listen to metal, you kind of say this is a guitar song, or this is a drum song, or this is, just a simple song. Junkie. So that's interesting, given the history of some of the people who've been in the band or are currently in the band. So is that autobiographical? Is it talking about somebody else? Is it just talking more in general terms?
You know what? It's hard to tell. I think that the title is self-revealing. It's about junkies. That's kind of what the song is. It starts off like an 80s glam rock song, something, I don't know, maybe Warrant or Quiet Riot would do, but right away it changes into a Megadeth song. Probably lacks a little bit of melody, but I could see this song off of Endgame or Dystopia. You know, it's a straightforward metal song. Uh, it's not bad. I'm just saying it's not one of my favorites, but maybe given that time, it would be a lot better. I just
Is
find that
anything bad? Is anything on the
no,
record bad?
no,
Or is it, or
it's
is like, if this is one of the lower echelon songs for you,
yes,
it's kind of a passable song, but just not as great as some of the other stuff.
yeah, exactly. I don't know if he's ever talked about Junkies in his all the other albums, and if he has, I don't remember. Do you remember?
Uh,
But
you
not
know,
as
like,
it's not as straightforward.
well, yeah, I
Perhaps.
mean, Sweating Bullets, Hello Me, Read the Meal. Like, he hasn't
Yeah,
really necessarily talked about hard drug use. Maybe he's told the story of, looking in the mirror and realizing you're a junkie and, being outside of yourself a little bit, but maybe not so directly.
yeah. I wouldn't call this, and I'll just count down to extinction. This is not this type of album. It's the organically next step to dystopia.
Yeah. Look, I thought the first three singles sounded like Rest in Peace. You said it was a bit of Rest in
Yes,
Peace, a
there
bit of
is.
Endgame, and a bit of Dystopia. And I thought Dystopia was a really great comeback as
Yeah,
well. So if
yeah,
you tell me this record is part Rest in Peace, part Dystopia, that has me interested as a fan. As a Megadeth fan, that has me interested. I think that would
and
be
you know
great.
what? You know what's funny? Like I was listening to this album on headphones. I just kept getting excited and excited, and I go, man, this is Frig Dave
Well,
Mustaine is friggin' amazing.
Well, that's great, Jimmy, because I will say, so Jimmy and I do get advance copies of records, and sometimes we're really excited about it, and sometimes we're happily surprised and can't wait to listen to the next song, but sometimes we're like, ugh, this thing is 14 songs long, and I don't really like it so far. So it's great when you get an advance copy of something that is kind of your job to review it, but also you want to enjoy it. So it's great that you kept wanting to hear more and it didn't become like your job. It sounded like, whether you were on the Metal
Exactly.
Voice or not, you would want to be listening to this.
Yeah, no, every time I put the album on, I get excited. Like, it's like
So,
they have not run out of gas. In fact, again, I will say this, it's more technical than any album I've heard. And it just there's so many it moves so much. There's no verse, chorus, fade, and that's it. It
well,
keeps moving.
that's
It
when
keeps
Dave's at his
moving.
best. I mean, Dave's a great musician and a great composer. So that's when Dave is at his best, I think, when he keeps us on our toes.
Is
Well,
Dirk as solid as Chris Adler? Absolutely. Dirk is doing a phenomenal job in keeping it all together on this album. That's one of the questions. K-Man saying, is there any songs that really blow you away? I just mentioned the first one. There's
Dogs of
more.
Chernobyl, I think you
Dogs
said.
of Chernobyl, that blew me away. I thought that was, and even the first song. Well, look, here's the thing. You know what? The first three singles were released, and sort of we're not looking at them, but we have to look at them in the overall picture, right? That's the
Yeah.
thing.
We'll Be Back was great. I mean, again, it's later in the album, but okay. So let's keep moving.
Okay.
Psychopathy. Is that what it is? Psychopath. Yeah, psychopathy.
So here's the thing. That is just an intro.
Okay,
Think of
so
the
it's not a
Hellion.
song. So it's an
Think of the
intro.
Hellion.
So it's an intro to Killing Time. Killing Time would be the next song.
Strange enough, psychopathy is a spoken word,
Okay,
but it's
not a
sort of
rap, a spoken word.
it's not a rap that's spoken, but it's a great segue into Killing Time. So it could have been together. How's that?
Is it Killing Time or is it Killing Time? Which is it?
Well, it's Killing Time.
Like Time to
It's
Kill?
Killing Time. You're wasting my time in
Okay,
that sort of sense. Stop
yeah.
wasting my time. Stop killing my time. That's so. I don't know if this is about someone he doesn't like. This is
Hmm.
somebody who's wasting his time. This is about a liar, a pathological liar. This
Is
is
it about
about a
anyone? Is
guy
it
who
about anyone who might have been in the band in the past? Like, no,
could be.
no lyrical references in that way.
I know you're lying when you're moving your lips. That's something he's repeating throughout the whole track. There's a bit of acoustic part in the middle. At the end, the soloing is just phenomenal. Sounds like Matthias Jabs at the end. When you start moving your lips, I know you're lying. So don't tell me you need me. You're killing my time. So it's sort of like you're wasting my time, right? This liar it's sort of absorbing his life. Stop killing my time. Stop wasting my time. So I could see this off. The System Has Failed.
Okay, well, I love that
Yeah,
record.
yeah,
The
yeah,
System Has Failed is probably like my third favorite Megadeth record.
yeah,
You asked for people's top 10 Megadeth songs before,
yeah.
and I had The Scorpion in my top 10, and I could have had Back in the Day and Die Dead Enough, so I love that record. So if you tell me Killing Time is something that could have been off The System Has Failed, that that's something I'm going to go to right away when I get this record.
Yeah, it's a great song and it's a grower too. And again, I will say this: I love all the songs. I just tend to love some more than others.
Some are
Not
a
saying
7
I
to
think
us,
any of them.
some are a 7, some are a 9. That's the way life is, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so Soldier On is next, which we've heard. And I will just say, though, I loved the first two singles. And when I heard Soldier On, I kept waiting for something to happen, and nothing happened. Because I thought it was the first of the three singles that was just the same riff throughout. And it was the most simple, straightforward of the three singles. And I was a little disappointed, and maybe that wasn't fair, just because I felt like there were so many interesting things that were happening in We'll Be Back and Night Stalkers that I thought Soldier On was just a little bit monotonous. So it was my least favorite of the three singles. Where does it rank in the album for you?
you know what? I even said this to you before. I really like Soldier On. Because it's sort of like we got to keep marching on despite the whole world falling apart. I kind of
Yeah.
like that theme.
Yeah, the message is great. I just thought the song was just same throughout the song.
Would you agree that's more of a dystopia-ish type song that could have sat well on that album?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's definitely, and the bending of the strings, which has become the trademark, da da da. That sound. I think dystopia, even Rust in Peace, it could have sat well this song. And I like it. Soldier On's a great song. Everybody's heard it, so I mean, I don't know what else I can say about this.
Yeah, I was just curious because it was my
How
least
about
favorite of
this?
the three singles.
Everybody watching, did you enjoy Soldier On? Were you like me, who enjoyed it more, or like Perrin, who enjoyed it a little less?
Yeah, and I'm like you though. Like it's not a bad song, but whereas I thought the first two singles were like 9s out of 10, I thought Soldier On was like a 7 out of 10.
And I think what happened is the first three songs are very similar in style, where the rest of the album there's a little more variety. That's what I'm trying
Yeah,
to say.
and I might have been okay. I've heard this already, and maybe that's why it was only a 7 to me. And again, like you said, you need to kind of hear almost like the flow of the album
Yes.
to kind of really appreciate something. Because I mean, look, I'm really into sequencing of albums, and I feel like some bands pay very particular attention to how the tracks are sequenced, and some
Yeah.
don't do a good enough job of that. So Soldier On can be very welcome if it comes on the back of a couple of like differently paced songs before it. So
Yeah, exactly. So here's what so Ove is saying: Soldier On rules, perfect chorus. I agree, man. It's a great song. Like, even watching the video, you get excited, right? I mean, can you believe these guys have had, what is it, 15, 16, 17, 18 albums? And he keeps cranking them out. It's not like Metallica, we sit and wait for, 10 years.
no, 8 years between records. No, I mean, I know. I'm glad he took his time a bit, but yeah, I think this is their 16th studio record.
Yeah, yeah.
All
right.
Okay, the next one's an interesting title, Celebutante. So it's like celebrity and debutante, or
Yeah,
celebutante.
it's basically talking about models and actors, how they need to be famous and popular. It's more of a need than a want. And I think that's the message. Another technically thrash song. I dig it. I gave it like a 9 out of 10, 8, 9 out of 10. And again, great solos, a lot of tempo changes, a lot of key changes. There's not much more I can say. I would say, again, Endgame Dystopia. That's the album I would
And
say. Well,
is it like making light of the Kardashians of this world and those kinds of people kind of
yeah,
thing?
exactly. How it's more of a need to be a celebrity than a want to be a
Like
celebrity.
I haven't done anything in a while. I haven't been in the public eye. Let me do something to get into the public eye.
Exactly. And again, it would sit well on Endgame and Dystopia. So that's how I kind of look at it, right?
Okay,
I went
the
through all
next-
the albums. I go, where would this sit if you could put them?
Okay. The next title is more like something I would expect on an Iron Maiden album, like Mission to Mars. I don't know if I don't envision Dave singing about outer space and that kind of thing.
You see,
so,
me too. At first, I go, this is going to be kooky, right? This is the best, in my opinion. In my opinion, because I love space and Mars and all that stuff. The greatest song. This could have been the prequel to Hangar 18.
okay, wait. So is this the best song on the record too? This is your favorite?
To me,
song?
this is the best song. This is Mustaine storytelling at his best.
Wow.
You
okay.
know, This is like the
I
six
hear the
million.
title and I think Final Frontier from Iron Maiden. I think that kind of thing, which I know
Look,
you like.
do you know the song 44 Minutes on Endgame?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a story, right? And it's
Mhm.
police sort of back and forth going on. On this, he writes this. This could have went sideways, okay? He writes it so well that you're just listening to the song and you're listening to the story. It basically a mission to Mars, right? They're blasting off the story, right? They get to Mars, and there's this sort of exchange between Mission Control and Utopia, the ship that Dave's on, I guess. Dave's on, whoever's on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some sort of, oh, wait a second, we see some life there. We see another ship there. And I don't know if Earth evaporates at the end or the spaceship evaporates at the end, but there's this whole cliffhanger where it starts off as this cool thrashing song and goes into overdrive at the end. And it's just this grand finale. And to me, one of the best tracks. And I would guess this is going to be a video because it's so intense. It's kind of like, Steve Austin, $6 Million Man, and there's the explosion at the end. It's kind of like that. So from a lyrical perspective. And there's a little bit of humor. And there's witty humor in there, which makes it that much more enjoyable.
All right. You really piqued my interest of that one, so I'm looking forward to it as well. The next track is We'll Be Back, which was the first single, so I think everyone has heard that a ton. I loved it. That one grabbed me by the throat the second I heard it, and I was like, wow, Megadeth are back, And I'll be the first one to admit, I said this to someone on our thread today, I'm more of a casual Megadeth fan in the sense that I grew up with them. I don't really get into the deep tracks. I kind of like the more well-known songs. But We'll Be Back, when I first heard it, I'm like, wow, I really want to hear this record. I think this is really like a harbinger of something like really great coming, So I thought it was a great song. I think it's probably my favorite of the 3 singles so far.
And I just want to say something about the first track, The Black Plague. That was written before COVID, and I think Mustaine said something about this in the press a while ago. It has nothing to do with COVID. This was written well before, and sort of the history of the Black Plague back in the day. And you know what? I would say this is a brilliant album. Dave Mustaine has outdone himself. And it would definitely fall into the top 3 all-time Megadeth albums.
Okay, Jimmy, that's a huge statement. Okay, so if you're saying 16 albums, I think, into their career, that in 2022, Megadeth has released a top 3 album, when we're talking about Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, Peace Sells, So Far So Good, So What.
It's around there, you know what I mean? It's around there. Will it outdo Rust in Peace? Only time will tell. I can't make that call now. And
I'm just saying it's a bold statement to say it's a top 3 record. So I mean, you're
within the top 3 of the Megadeth. It's higher. Yeah. It beats all the '90s and the 2000 albums, the Risks. All those albums there.
Okay, I'm going to ask you.
It beats Endgame. It beats Endgame.
Best album since. Now, if you like Dystopia, you might just say best album since Dystopia. Best album since what?
Well, I would say Megadeth and Endgame were the 2 best last Megadeth albums, right? Right, and I think it's a fair statement. I think everybody would say that too. I love The System Has Failed. I haven't liked... Oh, yeah, me too. I have it right here.
Which is, it's a long time ago now. It's coming up on 20 years,
No, this is a great album too. Don't get me wrong. It's wonderful. But this is more... The first 2 tracks are great. It is a great album. It is a great album. I mean, no question, but it does beat this album. Look, this is Megadeth at its best. Technical thrash. And you asked me about the vocals. Listen, it's Dave Mustaine. We're talking about,
Yeah,
Dave
you
Mustaine
like his
vocals.
vocal delivery or you don't. I will say, like, his voice isn't for everybody, but I mean, it's distinctly Megadeth, right?
You know what? I don't think you could have these types of songs. I think the songs were written for that witty, growling, snarling voice that he has. Okay. When I first discovered Megadeth, back when they first released the first album, I was kind of put off by his voice.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were at first.
But I can see how his voice plays a huge role in the music that he makes today. It's just, it's distinct.
Now, Jimmy, I got 2 more songs on the. Now, did you get a version of these 2 songs? Because the next 2 songs are Police Truck, which is a really weird title, and then This Planet's on Fire, which really intrigues me. So you don't have those two songs
No,
on the
the bonus
advanced
tracks. No,
Okay, so those are bonus tracks.
no bonus
So you'll be a
tracks.
little bit surprised too then when you get the record because there's going to be two songs that you haven't heard yet. So
Yeah,
on the normal version, "We'll Be Back" is the last song on the regular version of the record.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I'm looking forward to even picking this up when it comes out. I suggest, if you're a Megadeth fan, you're gonna love it. You just
I love the cover art too. Let me say, like, not
yeah, I'll put it
people
up
don't
right
always
now.
buy physical copies all the time now. I'll buy a physical copy when I want the whole package, and I really like the cover art from what I've seen. So
Yeah,
let
it's
me just go through
beautiful.
my questions, Jimmy. I just want to make sure I've hit everything. So I
Yeah, let's
wanted to
cover everything
understand.
here.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure the first three singles were representative. You say it's more diverse than that. Rust and Peace comparisons, not exactly. There are no ballads or slower songs. I think you touched on some of the lyrical themes. You talked about Dave's voice. You talked about Kiko Dirk and the bass playing. So, a couple of questions.
Mm.
Is this album, if you're a Megadeth fan, is it an instant hit or is it a grower? And from your reaction so far, I'm hearing instant hit if you're a Megadeth fan. You're going to like
I
it
think
right away.
you know what? When I first heard the first three singles, like you did, as a Megadeth fan, I was completely compelled to want to hear more. Right. So I think it's a hit in that sense. But what makes Megadeth great is that there are still other tracks in the album that are growers and growers. You know about growers, right? Growers over
Yeah.
time, you just learn to love these tracks. There's some quirky moments with the lyrics, like like we mentioned, right?
Right.
But that's colorful. I like that. Why
Okay.
always have the same war themes, right? I
All
mean,
right. Will we be talking about this record a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Because this is something you and I always talk about privately. Yeah, I like it, but in a year, I don't know if I'm going to be listening to it. Or I love
yeah,
it and I'll always listen to it. So which category is this in? Will this record stand the test of time? Of course, we're excited about it now, but
yeah.
a
That's
year from
that's
now,
that's. You know what? I think because there is so much going on in these songs, there'll be guitarists trying to take it apart. See, that's where the thing is, right? With Megadeth, guitarists try to take the songs apart, drummers try to take the songs apart. That's why it stands the test of time. Now, then there's the listeners, the casual listeners like you and me, right? Are they hooky enough to stand the test of time? Is there enough substance in them? I think it does. I think it stands the test of time. And because when I was trying to pinpoint which album it sounds like, and it doesn't sound like any of the albums. There is that Megadeth sound, but it doesn't really sound like any of the albums.
yeah, and I think that's a good thing though. Like when I say Rust in Peace or anything else, I always like it when a band puts out a record that I can say, okay, there's kind of a lifeline to that record and a lifeline to that record, but it's not a copy of that record. I don't want a copy of Rest in Peace, but for me, the ideal Megadeth record might be something that sounds a little like Peace Sells and a little like Rust in Peace and a little
Yeah.
like The System Has Failed. And for me, that's the magic recipe. And for someone else, it might be something else. I don't want a carbon copy of another record, but there's definitely, if you told me it was half Rust in Peace, half Risk, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? That's a really weird combo. So, but I like that you're saying it's a bit of dystopia and a bit of Endgame and a bit of Rust in Peace.
You know
So
what? A lot of people tell me, Jimmy, you love every album. No, I only love the albums I review.
yeah, because guys, we don't want to come on this show and totally destroy something, particularly if it's a band or people that we like. So we're honest with you. When we do the panel show, sometimes
Yeah.
I'll say something's a 6 on 10, or Jimmy will say he didn't like that song. But we want to kind of turn you guys onto things that are cool, and we don't want to kind of, you know, bury people if they don't really deserve to be buried. So are you ready to rate the record, Jimmy? Like, do you have
Yeah,
do you want to
look,
reserve your rating, or are you
I
ready
think I
to
might
rate
have
it?
to reserve it. Look, absolutely, it's past 8 out of 10, right? Like it's above
Okay.
that. There's no way it's any lower than that. Time will tell, right? If it's going to be at 8.9 or a 9, it's somewhere between 8 and 9. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay. Well, look,
And the
I
only
gave the
reason,
first three singles a 9, a 9, and a 7. So 997 is 25 divided by 3, so it's like an 8.3. So for me, for the three songs I've heard, I'm over an 8 with the three songs I've heard.
if I thought The Sick, The Dying, and the Dead was fantastic, Life in Hell is fantastic, Night Stalker is great, Dogs of Chernobyl, Sacrifice is good, Junkie So-So, Killing Time, Soldier On, I love, Celebutant, great. And then Mission to Mars, that's 9. We'll Be Back, that's 10. So right away you could see somewhere between 8 to 9 out of 10. And again,
So we're
time will
talking
tell.
album of the year candidates here. We're talking an album that will be in the conversation
definitely,
for album of the year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
You know what? Pre-order this. If you're a Megadeth fan, you have to pre-order this. This is like, and especially if you didn't like the first 3 singles, then don't bother. But I can't even see how a Megadeth fan wouldn't like at least 2 of the singles that were released, right? And those singles are not completely reflective of the rest of the album. Even though a lot of the album is like that, there's also a little bit more variety and a lot more going on than just that. There's a lot of stop and goes.
That's the best thing that you've said. For me, that's the best thing that you've said, because I love the first 2. I told you I was a little, Soldier On's a bit same. And I was hoping you were going to tell me there was a bit more variety. So I'm really excited to hear that.
But there are no ballads.
Any last fan comments?
There are no ballads, so there's no Tout le monde. There's nothing like that. Okay.
Okay, and that's good for some people. Are there any last fan questions? Because I always need to remind Jimmy sometimes to read your guys' comments. So are there any last?
We're waiting for comments.
Questions?
We're waiting for comments and questions in our final minutes here. Well, he said. So Francis says 9 out of 10. Wow, that's a classic. Really? I'm just saying between 8 to 9. I'm not giving it a number right yet. I just need some more time to think about it, but it's somewhere there.
Yeah, but it's
up. So Ove is saying something for everyone. Absolutely, there's something for everyone. Happy to hear good vibes from it. Do you think it will debut at number 1? I think it will. Perrin, what competition does it have?
Yeah, I mean, look, September 2nd. I mean, look, there's so many charts now. There's the hard music chart. There's the new music chart. There's the overall. But I think a Megadeth record, as long as it's not up against, the new, Harry Styles record or whatever, could actually debut very high on the regular charts because there's enough fans. And you know how it goes, right? Metal fans are such that the first week we all go out and buy it. And then the interesting thing to see with a record in metal is, does it sell decently well the second week, or is there a huge drop? Like, did everyone buy it the first week and then there's nothing? So we'll see what kind of staying power. But, I don't even care about the charts. I'll be honest with you. Like, at this point, what do the charts really mean? Like, it's not... No one sells, like, 1 million records anymore, like, the first week. Like, it's just, that doesn't happen. But without a doubt, I know September 2nd, there's that. There's a few things coming out on September the 2nd. It's like, Jimmy and I were just saying, Fridays seem to be the big release day these days.
It is.
Friday, September 2nd, there's a few things coming out. But I think Megadeth is, Megadeth is the big one that's coming. Ozzy, I'm not sure what the release date is, but I'm sure that's gonna, get a lot of traction.
Yeah, I think it's October.
Yeah. So
look at this. Is it the best of the 2000 era in your opinion? Yes, it is the best of the 2000 era. I'm trying to think of all the ones in the 2000. We have this. This.
You have The System Has Failed.
We have this.
You have United Abominations.
United Abominations, I don't have right here, but I have it somewhere.
United Abominations.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, definitely.
13, Endgame, Super Collider, Dystopia.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a yes. Kiko. Holy mackerel, man. Kiko just... his guitar tone, and his playing. He's not just playing fast. There are some moments on this album where he's just playing to the song, and it's more of emotional solo than it is.
Let's not forget, Kiko and Dirk have been in the band for a while now, right? Even though they haven't recorded a lot with the band, Kiko, Dirk, and Dave have been a unit for, over 5 or 6 years, which I know isn't like 20 years, but for Megadeth, it's a long time, right? So minus the bassist change, 3/4 of the band has been a unit for a while and done a lot of shows together. So I think there's something there. And look, Dave has not always been one to want to let other people into his bubble when it comes to writing and creating.
Of course.
And so the fact that he's letting Kiko and Dirk into the bubble, I think it says something about the amount of respect he has for their ability. Because, it was very much, it's still Dave's band, but Dave was also the creator and was kind of like, here, play this, And for Kiko and Dirk to make it kind of more of a band vibe in the creation of the songs, I think that says a lot about where the band is going, and it's good because maybe we'll be able to see. They seem very happy with James Lomenzo, right? James joined as a temporary member, and then
That's
after
right.
the tour, the metal tour, the Year of Lamb of God, it was announced that James is now a permanent member. So if we can keep this unit going for this entire tour and then record another album together, we could be seeing a Megadeth lineup with a good amount of longevity, which we haven't seen in a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, is there any last questions from everybody? I think I pretty much, as my voice is going, I think I pretty much covered everything enough. I mean, I'm a great guitarist by any means, and I couldn't tell you, chord by chord, but I could give you an idea of what it sounds like. And
Well, I think you painted a good picture, Jimmy. I think like this show definitely. I think you've whet the appetite for me and for the rest of us. And look, the good news is it's 2 weeks from today, so it's not too long to wait.
yeah, yeah.
And sure there'll be a few leaks out there, so everyone keep your eyes and ears open. But hey, Jimmy's a good citizen. He did not share the record that he was not supposed to share, and we did this show where I was flying blind a little bit, and Jimmy's in the know. And soon enough, in a couple of weeks, maybe we'll do a panel show where me, Steph, and Giles can chime in, and Jimmy can interview us. But for today, he's the man in the know.
So, what did you think of my review a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I'm going to review your review after I hear it.
It's interesting because Dave Elfson, I see a couple of comments, so he was sort of brought in to just do his bass parts, and then he was sort of removed, right? I don't know if he had any contributions to the songs themselves other than just doing the bass part that he was supposed to do. And from what I'm reading, is he was just supposed to follow the bass guide, right, and do his own kind of thing. So it's a shame, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah,
I'm
it
just
is.
happy that they survived.
Yeah, people grow apart. Everyone's doing their own thing now, and everyone lived to tell about it, and we go from there. And who knows? Maybe there'll be another reunion one day down the road. Yeah.
Everybody, thank you for watching. Go pick it up. Go pick it up. And see, I'm getting tired. Pick it up on pre-order. I put the links in the YouTube chat, YouTube video description. Grim Reaper, you can send some money. I put also the link to send some money for the funeral of Steve Grimmett. Family's not rich. I'll put the album up as we close.